Before we begin this video, I want to offer a quick disclaimer. I am sick, as you can probably tell by my voice. I initially want to get this video out on Tuesday as a sort of countdown to the finale, but seeing how I had to recover my voice first, this was admittedly a bit of a rush job. This is all last minute, so I'll primarily be using pictures to speed up the editing process. Anyways, that's all. Enjoy the video.
Hello, Repony. My name is Hawk Nightwing, the most unapologetic defender of G5 you'll ever meet.
And let's talk about Allura. I know I'm making this video a bit late, but like I said in the disclaimer, I have been a bit under the weather lately, and I was in no condition to make videos. But I'm about 75% better, and like Pip, I refuse to rest. My fans need me, they just can't live without me! So instead, let's discuss why Allura might just be the best villain LP has ever created, at least in terms of depth and complexity. This is a bit of a mini defense video to pass the time, while I finally get to work on the bigger ones. I was going to save talking about our favorite angsty Snow Leopard for a bigger video discussing the villains of LMPG5, but after seeing how incredible the episode No Place Like Home was, I knew I had to prioritize her because holy cow, Allura was an awesome antagonist, and probably the best out of LMP's entire catalog. For one, there's the fact that she's just a more interesting villain in general. It's wild that for a show build is very simplistic on the narrative standpoint, the creative team came out with a threat that's both tangible and believable. That'll teach you not to judge a book by its cover, have past me. The main thing that separates Allura from other villains is that for a major threat, she's a backstory you can actually get behind. In writing, there are two types of main villains. There are the villains that are evil just for the sake of being evil, a formula which this franchise is very famous for. And then there are the more dynamic types of villains, who are evil for a reason. They're very tragic to a degree, and their motivations are rooted in a quite sympathetic origin. The later seasons of Friendship is Magic, post-season 4, attempted this to varying degrees of success. There was Starlight Glimmer, whose motivations essentially boiled down to, my friend left me to pursue his dream, so now I'm an evil communist who blames cutie marks for all my problems. Oof. Yeah, I think we can agree that as much as the cutie remark absolutely slaps as a time travel story, Starlight's motivations were very undercooked. Now, how about Tempest Shadow, our next major example? Her motivations were similar to Starlight's, but I say she was executed a bit better. Her horn was cut off, and as a result, she was dumped by her friends who saw her as a freak. She had a very great reason not to trust anyone, and you can almost see her as the anti-Twilight. Until you factor in her blind trust of the Storm King, and it all kind of falls apart in my eyes. Good concept, but sort of iffy execution. Stygian was the closest we got to a villain's motivation being very airtight, but it was never really that tragic in hindsight. It's definitely sympathetic and relatable, feeling left out and unfairly exiled from your own friend group when you help bring them together, and the fact that all you wanted was to be equal to them. But seeing as to how easily that conflict was resolved in Shadowplay, it definitely doesn't bring out that same level of sadness, mainly due to the fact that we don't see enough of Stygian in the two-parter to gain that sort of deep understanding with this character. And as much as I adore Opening as a villain, her backstory was not tragic nor sympathetic at all. In fact, it was the exact opposite of that, and I believe that was intentional by design. She's not supposed to be the villain you feel bad for whatsoever. Now, how about Allura? What is her motivation to be evil? A freak accident that she couldn't control ended up stranding her from her family as a child, and she spent many decades on her own, doing everything she could to survive and get back home, with her mind being twisted as a result of her constant isolation. Now that is something that LP has never done before, rooting the main villain's motivation strictly to the theme of family. Minor antagonists like Diamond Tiara have had familial conflict before, sure, and it was executed brilliantly. And in the case of a main villain, Tyrik's backstory briefly touched on it. But at least in his case, never really went on to form a sympathetic motivation. Tyrik was never sympathetic by design, and that was intentional. He was a greedy backstabber who wanted what he wanted. That's it. His backstory was never designed to make us feel bad for him, more so to show us how wrong he was compared to his brother Scorpan. But for a main villain to have a backstory so rooted in the theme of family that it forms a cornerstone of their identity, and the overall story as a whole, now that is interesting. Family is a theme that G5 has excelled at during its run. Every time it touched on it, the best stories ever came out of it. And it's one of the many reasons why it's the best generation for me. So with the heavy focus on family as the core theme of G5, it comes as no surprise that the villain should be rooted in the singular thematic idea. Allura's motivations basically boil down to a lost child wanting to get home. She never wanted any of this. She never wanted to rule the world or conquer everything. All she wanted was the life she wants new back, and it's a perfect example of how desperate times can lead one to resort to desperate measures. She's been shattered by the events that have essentially ruined her life, and she yearns for a family that she misses more than anything in the world. We've always seen positive sides of the familial theme in the past with this generation, or at least negative examples that lead to a positive outcome. A given character misses something about their family, but through a positive experience, they gain a deeper understanding. But what about the flip side of that? What if you have a character who once had everything, but lost it to the point where there's no return? What if that character had no happy ending? How would it change them? How would it gnaw their personality and change them for the worse? What about the dark side of that family theme? And that is Allura in a nutshell. Some have taken issue with the episode's portrayal of Allura, arguing that in portraying her as this jaded, broken figure who sings about her problems, it sacrifices the more evil, manipulative characterization she had in the Making Mark special, Secrets of Starlight. After all, in that special, She was a lot more slimy and seemingly wanted to enslave the Allura Corns for her own nefarious purposes. But I'd argue that no place like home actually enhances her prior portrayal by expanding on her underlying reasons for being evil in the first place. The episode wasn't trying to gaslight us into downplaying Allura's actions at all. Rather, it showed us Allura's thought process and why she thinks the way she does. She doesn't think herself a bully because her mind has been warped by so many years of grief and isolation that she felt like she had to enslave the ponies of Starlight Ridge in order to get home. She never wanted to do any of this. It was more so necessary evil for her. For Allura, everything was worth it as long as she got to return home to her brother, Arturo. She has no concept of what's truly right and wrong due to being separated from her family as a child. All she knows is the survival instinct she picked up, and the bitterness that overtook her heart. She had no one to guide or nurture her for probably thousands of years, and as a result, she takes that anger out on the world. To Allura, the ponies don't understand her. They don't want to understand her. They don't care to understand her. Their minds are made up, and they can't see the tortured and broken soul that lies within that cold exterior. All she really wants to do is find her way back to the one she lost. Allura doesn't see herself as a monster or a bully. She's gone too far down this dark path to understand the ramifications of her actions. Instead, she thinks the problem lies with the ponies and the Allura Corns who chased her away. She blames Sunny and the others, especially Izzy, for stealing her only way home. The reason why she was so hostile towards Izzy and Ooh, a new friend, was because she holds this almost toxic sort of animosity towards the unicorn. She blames it for everything, for stranding her once again in a world she doesn't want to be in, for making her life significantly more difficult, even if it wasn't Izzy's fault. What makes her the best villain in LP's entire catalog is that her actions are rooted in realism. Despite the fantastical elements at play like different dimensions, magical charms, and mythical creatures, Allura at the end of the day represented people who are broken. People who have no support system, no one to guide them through life. As a result, Allura was also the most realistic villain because she's a reflection of those who let their anger at the world consume them to the point where there's seemingly no return. But the most interesting part was, there was hope for Allura. There was hope for her to change and grow as a character. In spite of how hopeless she perceived her own situation, Allura in truth was far from gone. By giving the Twitch demands to have fun at the board trot, lighting up whenever she saw him happy, and the charms actually working on her, these showed how deep down, Allura could still be healed. Her ice-cold heart could actually be thawed. Allura's motherly bond with Twitch also shows that the writers went the extra mile in crafting her character, because it shows that deep down, Allura always had a soft side to her and that she never completely lost her empathy. She took Twitch in when he was also alone, and the two are basically family to each other. She cares for him deeply, and as much as they may annoy each other, they really do need each other. And it's this caring side and the fact that she loves Twitch like her own, the fact that she saves him multiple times, all that makes you question, how evil really is this character? Underneath all this surface level villainy, there's an actual creature who's hurting underneath, and they deserve help. They deserve a chance to be understood. And it's this double-sided nature that really makes me appreciate Allura as a character, despite her limited screen time this season. Instead of being a one-note antagonist who's just evil like Opaline, Allura in contrast was a completely different type of threat. She was complex, dynamic. She had realistic goals and aspirations that you can root for, and you wanted to see her succeed. Her motivations were airtight and beautifully fleshed out throughout the song. Her journey towards reformation was realistic, because it was the only one in my view that was properly built up in advance. This episode was only the start of that arc. If only we could have seen the rest of it, huh? But what do you guys think of Allura? Is she really the greatest villain LP has ever seen? Or do you think that is a bit of an exaggeration? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you are new here and you want to see more, then feel free to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to be updated on future content. We analysts appear to be a dying breed in the community, as mindless hate videos are all the rage, so your contributions make a huge difference in helping me grow. Until next time, this is Hawk Nightwing signing out. Hoof to heart.